Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Nopapa community. My name is Christine Chen, and I am the Executive Director of Asian and Pacific Islander American Vote. It is my pleasure to be here with you this afternoon and moderate a discussion among three of the candidates for your Nopapa Board of Governors election. This forum is structured within our time slot. In just a minute here, each candidate will provide opening remarks, 2 minutes each, and then we'll answer three predetermined questions with 3 minutes to respond. We will open the forum to audience questions in the latter half. So please be sure to submit your questions through the chat function. It is now my pleasure to introduce your candidates, Judy Lamb for Secretary, and Kristen Haugen and Marty Lorenzo for Director. So we'll go ahead and start with opening remarks in the order of Judy, Marty, and Kristen.
Thank you, Christine. I'm Judy Lamb, and I'm running for a second term as the Secretary for NAPABA on the NAPABA board. This year has been rewarding and mostly in working with the many talented lawyers and leaders around North America that make up the NAPABA board. I've learned about the organization, its history, about board processes, its governance, things that have worked, things that can be improved. And we've done a lot of work to improve the way that NAPABA governs and works and serves all of you, both internally and externally. In the pandemic year, from our individual bubbles, we have all stayed connected and built new relationships, and it has made us all better and also allowed us to address the important crises that are facing us and also the nation as citizens and as lawyers. I see the dedication to NAPABA and what it stands for, particularly because we've missed so much of it. I see that what NAPABA means to people as we bemoan how much we miss meeting in person and the special bonds that we all share. And that is really why I have decided to run for another year of service on the NAPABA board. This year has been a heavy lift for NAPABA, especially with the rise of crimes against APAs. And these are legal and moral dilemmas and are tied up in our identity. I do see NAPABA as a national voice for APA lawyers and for our identity, and we are all well poised for the good work that lies ahead. I am here in California, where my family settled after immigrating from Hong Kong. I've been in private practice as a lawyer for over 20 years, and I do still enjoy litigation and trials, still learning new things and new ways to solve old problems. In the past few years, I've dedicated more time to ADR, being an arbitrator and also a mediator, to peace building and collaborating with other communities of color. I am also serving on the board of Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. I'd like to start off with a few thank yous. First to NAPABA, and especially Maureen Gelwicks, Jill Werner, and Priya, who's back, for organizing this event. To Christine Chen for taking your time to be with us tonight, and for all the great work that the Asian Pacific Islander American Vote does for our community. To my fellow distinguished candidates for your continued commitment to NAPABA and willingness to engage in this dialogue for the benefit of our members. And of course to you, our members, who have taken time out of your busy schedules and stayed late at night to join us tonight. I'm Kristen Haugen. I'm Vice President of Legal for LifeWorks, a global publicly traded company focused on helping people. And helping people is actually the reason that I went into law initially. I found it to be a wonderful way to help my clients and my community, and to be a great way to develop leadership skills, including strategic planning, goal setting, managing and motivating a team, communicating clearly, and deep listening. I'm currently a member of NAPABA's advisory board. And immediately prior to that, I spent 2 years as an at-large board member. As a director, my experience will bring enhanced continuity and institutional knowledge. I've also served on NAPABA's committees and networks, and the constant thread to my involvement is my willingness to step up, take ownership of something that needs to be done, to engage with team members, to get things done, and to have fun while doing so. A quick note, the director positions are uncontested this year, but I welcome this opportunity to speak to you tonight, to introduce myself, and to invite you to reach out to me at any time with questions, suggestions, or feedback. I'm here for you.
Thanks, Kristen. I too wanted to say some thank yous. Thank you to the wonderful staff for organizing this, Christine, for your time, and my fellow candidates. It's always good to see you and smiling faces. I'm bummed that I don't get to see the rest of the audience in this format, but hello everyone out there in Zoom land. Thank you for making the time to come listen to us. I too am very honored to be a current director on the board. I'm the chair of the Governance, Elections, and Nominations Committee. And as Judy mentioned, we've done some really good work this year at moving forward with the governance of NAPABA and making sure that it is representative of you, the members, and making sure that we are on par with other bar organizations. And I think we still have a lot of work to do. And that's why I would like to run again. That's why I've put my hat in the ring. And as Kristen mentioned, these positions are uncontested. There are 2 positions, so I'm honored that I'll be working with Kristen and with Judy again. And so this really is an opportunity for us to answer some questions for you, get you all to know us a little more. And I was hoping to get more interaction, frankly, with you all. However, many of you attended the NAPABA conference last year with a virtual hybrid kind of format. It wasn't what we expected. As Judy had mentioned, I at least come to NAPABA for that feeling of belonging, feeling of a family reunion, getting to see everybody in person. But there was something to that format that we watched the panels and then we were sort of chatting live and streaming and stuff. And so there was a little bit of that interaction, and I'm hoping to get some of that with you all today, given the format, et cetera. So I leave more time for those questions. I'll cut off the rest of my introduction. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you everyone for your opening statements. So let's go ahead and get started with the Q&A, and we'll start out with Marty and then Judy and Kristen. NAPABA's priorities as a national voice and advocate for the API legal profession and beyond has changed since the start of the pandemic. What do you believe is NAPABA's key focus areas should be?
This is a tough question for me because there's so many things that I think we can do. From my perspective, it's really important to be able to remain focused on what it is that lawyers can do best. We can do a lot of things. We can be advocates for justice. We can do programs that educate. We can lobby for changes in legislation. Which of those are going to be most effective for us? And frankly, from my perspective, one of the things that we do really well is connecting dots. And it's really a lot of it has to do with our great staff and the fact that they're there in DC and in the mix of everything. Another part of it is all of us as we flex our respective networks and say, here's some more resources that we can bring to bear on these problems and situations. And connecting those dots is something that we do really well. So as we, as a community, as an AAPI community, address the situations that are continuing to unfold in our society today, I think it's really important that we place more effort on our connecting of dots, because a lot of the things, frankly, we do really well already. The advocacy, the position papers on new legislation, et cetera. So I'd like to see us connect dots more.
Then Judy? I think you're muted.
Thank you. Of course, NAPABA is a pretty big tent. It's a big tent of people from all over North America, and of course, many ethnic groups, many cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic levels, and many different ways in which we serve our communities. So that's terrific, and we should represent everyone and have a space for everyone to be here. But this year in particular, I've seen that many who are not APA, they don't see us or fully embrace us as Americans or as people that deserve respect. And very often we are not asked for our perspective. So I see NAPABA as an organization uniquely in this time, well poised to enhance the image and the power of APAs as lawyers and as Americans. And I want to be part of that mission. We are natural advocates, but we do go beyond technical lawyers, and we do represent. We do, and we should use our voices for change and to bring a unique perspective that we have, because we are non-white and we are non-Black. And we have maybe touch points and privileges in both.
Thank you. Kristen.
So advocating for our community, I think, varies day to day, depending on what is happening in terms of current events, in terms of legislation. But right now, I think our priorities are really taking a stance against anti-Asian hate and violence, which has been spiking with the pandemic. How this manifests or how we can do this advocacy varies. It can be lobbying for, the passage of appropriate laws and encouragement of enforcement of those laws. It's about educating our community in how to access resources, how to intervene, how to seek help and support, and ensuring those resources are available either through NAPABA or through partnerships with other organizations. Marty mentioned a little bit the connecting the dots, and some examples of that are our work with the Hate Crimes Toolkit, which we did with the Asian and Pacific Islander American Health Forum, bystander training that we've offered with Hollaback, COVID vaccination awareness are all great examples of that. But taking it another level, I think it's also about positioning AAPIs to rise into positions of power and influence. And that could be, presidential appointments, judicial nominations, and as well as key leadership roles in, law firms and business. The creation of the Alliance for Asian American Justice is an example of how NAPABA was well positioned and how committed members like Don Liu and Wilson Chu and others have leveraged their power and of their position and their influence in the community, both the Asian community and the broader community, to affect change. And if you don't know, the Alliance is designed to really perform some intake and then to coordinate law firm pro bono resources and community resources for victims of hate to ensure that they have access to justice and support.
Wonderful. Thank you. Judy, let's go ahead and start off with this question with you. What qualities make for an excellent leader? And do you have an example of people who you think have been exceptional leaders?
Yes, how much time do we have? That's such a big, giant question. And especially in a NAPABA audience, we have so many NAPABA heroes and, many that are outside of the APA community as well, who are leaders. And I find inspiration from all of my friends and leaders in NAPABA as well as outside. I think the qualities really include seeing beyond oneself. And very early in my career, I was just worried about sort of excelling and making myself okay and surviving and doing well. And so I think that I've reached a point where in my career and in my trajectory, meaning that I'm old, where I can offer some help. And so maybe that means advice, maybe that means yes, I've been there before, being a sounding board, being an organizer. I also feel that I have a certain amount of fire and a certain amount of energy where I feel like I'm activated and I want to do more than just what's in my immediate realm. And so I'd like to be on a national board working with people on a national voice. So I think that people who are good leaders also can work well with others. And so they can express their point of view and also encourage and enliven others to agree to disagree and to make the pot and the result better. So too many heroes to mention.
Wonderful. Marty?
Yeah, as Judy mentioned, there's lots of examples and many qualities that make for great leaders. For me, it comes down to servant leadership and being part of something bigger than oneself. And that desire to serve first and not to lead, frankly, is something I think that I see so much of in NAPABA. And many examples on our board. And a lot of them also are really good listeners. So there's some behaviors and there's some qualities. And I think the question was a little broader, but it asked qualities, but I would like to broaden it, frankly, because I think the qualities are servant leadership and self-awareness, but some of the behaviors are really being a really effective listener and frankly, doing everything with kindness. When we do all of those things, approach the art of leadership with a service aspect in mind, first and foremost, and then do it by being really good listeners and making sure that we are kind in everything. All of that put together and focused on a great mission like NAPABA has, that is the recipe for success in my mind. And really blessed to see so many AAPI examples in our ranks, like Judy said.
And then Kristen.
Well, Marty, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm, a firm believer in servant leadership as well. And it's taken me a long time to really appreciate exactly what that means, right? It's leading and convincing others to follow you because you've brought the right skill set and a vision, a shared vision, and you've got a team that's confident in your abilities to lead them in the right direction and knows that there's two-way trust there, right? There's trust that you're going to empower them, enable them, and that together you're going to do great things. For me, I think it boils down to basically three things. Having a vision for the organization and how it interacts with its members, supporters, and the community. Folks who are really eager to roll up their sleeves and get things done. And third, the ability to work effectively to advance the mission of the group through teamwork and solid communication. Speaking about each just briefly, vision, I love and wholeheartedly support this year's focus on NAPABA for All and our new strategic plan. I couldn't be more excited about it. It's the embodiment of where NAPABA is and the direction that we should be going. It's important for us to be inclusive for all APAs, regardless of our ethnicity, practice area, practice setting, and even stage, right? From law student all the way through post-practice or retirement. And I've personally worn a lot of different hats over the years in terms of career. And so I think that perspective does help me to see things through different lens. In terms of, hard work, whether serving as a member of my local affiliate or, in a leadership role within NAPABA, I'm committed to doing what it takes to support this great organization. And I think that we are our strongest when we are engaged together, which brings me to the third point, which is teamwork. Really, we need to foster a culture of mutual respect to bridge gaps and build bonds both within the organization and across our members, in addition to with the greater community. And we have such great strength in our affiliates, our committees, and our networks that I think in the future we can continue to strengthen and leverage those connections, build upon their ideas, their knowledge base, their experiences to really advance NAPABA.
Wonderful. And so let's go ahead and stick with you, Kristen, for this next question. How does NAPABA provide value for its members? What would you say to a new member looking to get involved with the organization?
Wow. In terms of value add, there are so many different ways that we provide value. And I think it really comes down to what that individual member is looking for, right? Are they looking to find someone that can mentor them? Are they looking for substantive knowledge? I would say the biggest value add that I've heard from talking to different members and the one that I personally find to be of greatest value is the community. So it's not just the connections, but our willingness to really help one another. There is such a genuine desire to lift others up, to guide and educate, to support. I have never once reached out to anyone in NAPABA and had them not, set aside time for me, not be willing to help me in some way. And whether it was, a silly question or something, much more intellectual, they always met me where I was and were willing to help me. And I think that it's that feeling, that sense of family and community that really sets us apart. In terms of, what I would say to a new member or someone considering NAPABA, sign up now and jump right in. Find something that's of interest to you and get involved, whether that's reaching out to a designated leader for that, committee, affinity group, network, or if it's talking to someone, jump right in, reach out, start asking questions, and don't be shy about introducing yourself to someone else. Find a way to get involved, because the more involved in NAPABA you get, the more it will give back to you, and it will give back to you in spades. Attending convention can't be beat. As I think Marty had mentioned, we're so excited to see each other, and it's such a great coming together and networking opportunity. Despite the size of our organization, we've been able to keep that welcoming and inclusive environment. But if you're looking for a more intimate event, I would really encourage you to come check out Lobby Day. It's, I think, one of our greatest kept secrets, and we need to publicize it more. The staff does such a phenomenal job of preparing you for the meetings on the Hill, and it's a truly memorable experience. And unlike convention, which is, so large and can be sometimes overwhelming, this is a much more intimate group, a smaller group of people, and you spend a little more time together, both out walking on the Hill, but also in trainings and some social events at night.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and go with Marty.
Sure. And so what I would say to a new member, and what does the value add that NAPABA provides, I really do, like Kristen mentioned, the NAPABA for all perspective that we have. There's something here for everybody, no matter what stage of development you are in your career. If you're like Judy and me, sort of mid to senior, I think we're mid, right, Judy? Maybe Judy. Yeah, mid. Yeah. We got a long runway ahead of us, so we're still there. Or someone in law school just starting out. NAPABA's got a great relationship with NAPALSA, and we want to be able to continue to foster that pipeline. A lot of the value that we bring also is being able to showcase the technical work and expertise that our members have. I am always amazed when we go to the convention or to the conference and see, oh, so-and-so's an expert on that. And oh, those things, that's the hot new stuff in, corporate securities law, that new fangled whatever it is. And that person we just had drinks with is on that panel, and we have all these experts in so many substantive areas, and being able to highlight those for our members and for others is really awesome. And what I would say to a new member is that, not to get too, old Filipino guy on you, but life is an echo. You get back what you put out there, right? So as much effort as you put into NAPABA, you will get out of that in kind. And when you go into it, knowing that it takes time to make relationships and build that network, knowing that you're making an investment, and as Kristen said, just jump right in, get started, and it will give back to you in time. That's what I would say.
And then Judy.
Hi, thank you. I see NAPABA as a warm collection of lawyers who extend themselves to you, whoever's attending, as an APA lawyer. And it's sort of like going to an auntie or a cousin, and we get each other in a way that feels really good for anyone who's a minority in any group, but particularly for lawyers, where it's a high demand and high stress environment, and we all want to do well. So the national network is really a resource for work and for life, whether it's finding a job or advancing in that job, whatever that may mean, finding success the way that you define it, business development, mentorship and support, and a great opportunity for being a leader or learning how to be a leader and building your skills that they don't teach in law school and they don't teach in other courses. So just seeing leadership happen at NAPABA. I've stolen a lot of tips from others in NAPABA, from negotiations to presentation to now I'm going to steal the echo idea from Marty. That was great. And then so for those who are affiliates who are very strong in doing terrific programming and having lots of other committee work that they do, they may be saying, how does NAPABA really serve my needs? Because I have my needs met by my local affiliate. And I would say that the national platform really provides big leaders and programs and thought ideas for what we stand for as APA lawyers and APAs in North America. In this year, I've heard more openly criticism of APAs that we stick with our own and we cluster and we protect our own. And that might be true, but there's also misperceptions about what that means. And there's also, obviously, we see in the news, there's ways in which we are not seen and we are not understood. And I believe it's incumbent upon us as a national group to reveal and to expose really what it means to be APA and why we have a lot to add in terms of leadership on a broader scale beyond our own community. And I think that NAPABA also provides a great platform for working with other communities who are not Asian, but who agree and who want to advance the same goals that we do. And we can work across lines of difference, but work in coalitions to make greater progress so that we can assert and broaden what we stand for and who comes within our tent, who understands us, and who stands with us.
Thank you, Judy. Now we're going to go ahead and take some questions from the audience, and we'll start this off with you, Marty, followed by Judy and Kristen. Thanks to the leadership of AB Cruz and the current board, NAPABA's leadership and governance seems to be on the right track, but those who remain ignorant of history are doomed to repeat it. What are the lessons and takeaways that you, a NAPABA leader, learned from the turmoil that AB and the current board have had to work so hard to correct?
Wow. Thank you for that question. I think it's a good platform to highlight a lot of the good work that was done. And frankly, some of that work majority of that work, frankly, was done behind the scenes. Governance is like infrastructure, and when it's done well, it's sublime, and the impact is unnoticed because everything just works. When it's not done well, everybody notices because there's potholes in the road, or the electricity doesn't work, or the water's not running, etc. And when we have those instances where there's a power shortage or an outage, if you will, something that interrupts the flow of the good work that we as an organization do externally and requires leadership to focus internally, it is an opportunity. And as we've all learned from this pandemic, never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So this was an opportunity for us to take a look at how we elect leaders, how those leaders are asked to interface with the board, what those leaders do as far as their responsibility to the organization goes, and to refocus on making sure that we are a governance board, not a doer board, if you will. So I like to say noses in, but fingers out. So as a governance board, what our job is to empower the awesome staff that we have, listening to our constituencies, that's all of our members and all of the rest of the constituencies, affiliates, etc., to make sure that our mission statement is serving our constituencies, and then empower the board to affect that, right? And the board, rather, empower the staff to affect that, working with the leadership of the various membership committees. When you say it like that, it comes in a nice, neat little package, but when you peel it like an onion, there's lots and lots of layers to it. Making sure that those layers work and putting together the guidelines and the bylaws, guidelines and resolutions, etc. Those are the things that the board has done over the last year and a half or so. And I've been very privileged to work with such professionals on the Governance and Elections Committee to make sure that some of those infrastructure pieces are nailed down, if you will, that the railroad is working, the trains are continue to run on time. And we do have some work to do to make sure that we lay that groundwork for the next 5-10 years ahead of us. And that's what I'd like to do on the board next year. Those are some of the things I'd like to do. So I hope I've answered the question about what the lessons learned are and how we would look to make sure that we've incorporated them for the future.
Thank you, Marty. Your insights, Judy?
This is my first year on the board, but I have learned so much in terms of how a board works. And so being the secretary, I have had to pay very close attention to exactly what the process is and what other avenues we could use in order to improve the organization. So I think the lessons learned are really that, to me, it has proven true that it's not so much who is asking the question or who is leading the committee or who is taking the credit, but what is the right answer? And what is the right answer framed as what's in the best interest of NAPABA? And the board has been working and looking for board members who are looking to do that work. I do know that for many organizations, there's lots of applicants that want to be on the board because they want to advance their own trajectory of work and advocacy and things like that. But I think NAPABA has grown to a level where it's important for people to focus on what's good for a great number of lawyers, because we are now a very large organization. So it's much bigger than the three of us that you see here who are, stepping up to serve. It's really what's going to be, what can we do that can be made a process that can improve the process, that can inspire the right governance after debate and review, that's going to serve NAPABA for years after we are all not in these seats anymore. And for the very present, I think we are on, we have a golden opportunity, and I feel that NAPABA has a national voice, and that has been a lesson this year more than any other year, that we need to, and we do, use our voice to amplify our own goals and the common goals of others.
Thank you, Judy. And Kristen, for your observations.
Sure. So, it's an apt point that we want to, learn from our history. And I think having served on the board when we were in the midst of trying to figure out some of this stuff, investigate some things that happened, and establish the best path forward, and then launching into our new strategic planning, really helped me to have a, expedited course in all things NAPABA, both, the history of NAPABA, but also, why things were done a certain way, why certain positions were created, why certain rules were put in place, what was the history behind all of that. I think understanding that and having that institutional knowledge carry forward from board to board is important. I would say we definitely learned some important lessons. I think primarily, identify problems early and address them right away. Avoiding them or downplaying them and thinking that they're going to go away isn't the best way to run an organization. So as soon as there's an inkling that there might be something amiss, we as a board need to investigate and jump on it. We were able to really, significantly look at our infrastructure and do a revamp of it, right? We reviewed bylaws, we established standing committees, we changed our governance structure. We really tried to think through not only what does NAPABA look like now, but what do we need NAPABA to look like in 10 years or 20 years? And are we setting ourselves up for success in that way? We want to be great communicators. We need to recognize who our stakeholders are and not have word trickle out through the rumor mill. We need to have open and honest communications and discussions with those key stakeholders. And along with that, we on the board and we at NAPABA really need to focus on creating positive ways to communicate. We're passionate people, we're incredible advocates. We're likely to have strong disagreements, but it's important that we can either get to a resolution or that we can get to a place where we can respect the differing viewpoints and agree to disagree. And if it's on the board, agree to disagree doesn't really work. The board needs to get to a resolution, and then everyone on the board needs to back that decision, that action, because it is the part of being on the board. And then finally, we did a lot of work with clarifying roles and processes to make sure that everyone understood how the different parts of NAPABA all work together. And part of that is improving the way that we work with our staff. And Priya has done a great job over the last year in really building out our staff, getting us up to full speed. and in identifying what their specific roles are, who they support, how they support it, and how communication should flow.
Thank you, Kristen. So we're going to go ahead and turn our question focusing on affiliates. We'll start out with Judy. How would you like to see NAPABA strengthen its bonds with affiliates? And then we'll follow that with Kristen and Marty.
Thank you. I think the affiliates are doing really terrific work, really terrific programs, and those ought to be amplified and done either sponsored by NAPABA or amplified so that people across the country can see them. I also think that the work of affiliates is closer to the ground, and so it's closer to what people are seeing, and also perhaps working with other nonprofits, whether it's in the area of needing access to voting or access to justice. Those are areas in which the affiliates are very close to what's really happening. I really feel that NAPABA has to be ready to consider those issues as they percolate up from the affiliates, because that's how we are here to serve. We're here to serve those constituents. But I also think that for the affiliates, which are made up of individual members, all of that is about building relationships and connecting and staying relevant, so that we have not only resources and toolkits and resources for people to go to, but we have relevant and timely and urgent programming where we are speaking and we are spreading the right, I would say not right, meaning there's a wrong and a right, but that we're on point and that we are being heard. And that if there are issues involving hate, if there are issues involving controversy, that we don't shy away from that. And that being the national voice, we are giving a voice that maybe the affiliates would love to have, that we can all find a chorus around good ideas and good momentum, because I do think that this is our time.
Thank you, Judy. Kristen?
I think I'd like to see our affiliates better connected, and specifically subgroups within our affiliates. So if Albany has an IP group, I'd like to see them not only connected to the NAPABA's IP group, but also the IP group at various affiliates. And the reason for that is not only the sharing of ideas and opportunities for referrals, but also the ability to take resources and programming and use ready-made things and to say, what, this worked well in New York. I think we could do something similar in Minnesota. We're going to want to tweak it a little bit for local flavor, but maybe I can leverage all the groundwork that's been laid by the New York affiliate. And similarly, not just practice groups, but various practice subgroups. So for instance, our in-house attorneys or our solo and small firm practitioners, if we can better connect those from across the affiliates, they can be tremendous resources for one another, because NAPABA has amazing staff and amazing resources, but our view at NAPABA for something like membership might be very different than what the on-the-ground experience is of a local affiliate. So I think connecting our affiliates to one another would be a great step. Something else that I think I'd like to see more of is having our affiliates really communicate with NAPABA about what their needs are, and recognizing that our affiliates are so diverse also, not only in terms of culture, but in terms of size. And perhaps there's a way to group affiliates together and have some, mastermind type sessions with the leaders. So we have some of the, small affiliate leaders able to talk with one another, and the large affiliate leaders able to talk with one another. And again, it all comes back to that sharing of ideas.
Wonderful. And Marty, would you like to weigh in?
Oh, thanks, Christine. We as a board really must listen to our constituents, and those constituents are our affiliates. And as Kristen mentioned, though, the affiliates range from the Aba, New York to, somewhere even smaller. And I'm not sure which of our affiliates is the smallest, so I won't call you all out. But the resources that each of those affiliates have varies greatly. Our NAPABA staff does a really good job at interfacing with those affiliates, and they have plans for ramping that up and seeing how we may be able to partner better with some of the community constituents who are asking folks like at NAPABA Law Foundation to put on some programs, educational programs, et cetera. Well, NAPABA Law Foundation doesn't have staff itself. That staff comes from the NAPABA staff, and the people on the ground for the NAPABA Law Foundation to be able to put together those programs comes from NAPABA affiliates. So we have to really figure out how we can provide that product, if you will, provide that service for those folks who are asking for it from us. And now is a great time of need. And as Judy mentioned, those individual members of the affiliates are the folks on the ground who are actually going to be doing things to affect those programs. So how do we tie it all together? It's that connecting of dots that I was mentioning at the top of this discussion. And it's easy to say, it's hard, super hard to do. But that's the effort that we need to place in there. And as Kristen mentioned, it's a lot of listening. How can we best be of service to those affiliates? And then offering these opportunities saying, hey, this organization, whoever it is, has asked for an educational program that does X. How do you want to be involved? This is an opportunity for you, Enfala, Albany, whoever it is, F Bank, et cetera. How do you and your members want to get involved? And maybe we create some processes whereby we pull out to the individual members of those affiliates. They come back and reporting up and down and come up with something that fits all the needs. But there's a lot of work there to be done, but that's the important work that we do.
Thank you. And then we're going to take one last question from the audience, and that is, should NAPABA take a position on each and every hot topic and issue? Or should NAPABA expand beyond the traditional areas of immigration, racial justice, education, and voting? Let's start with Kristen, Marty, and then Judy.
I would say, no, we shouldn't take a position on every hot topic. We just don't have the bandwidth and the resources to do that and to do it well and to do it in the right way. Should we take a position on things beyond the scope of what we've historically taken a position on? Maybe if it's the right issue to come out on. I think that our policy folks do a great job of identifying issues, and it's always important to remember that we are not a group of Republicans and we are not a group of Democrats. We're a nonpartisan organization, and so the positions that we take, we want to take in a way that's respectful of the views of our members. And sometimes that impacts, I think, the selection of issues that we choose to take a position on. But overall, the other way that I've seen us address issues that are sort of a little bit outside of the group of issues that might otherwise be teed up for us is certainly through CBAC. And so it's the lobbying that we do in conjunction with the other affinity bars, and they provide us with resolutions and ask for us to sign on, and we evaluate each one. And sometimes we do and sometimes we don't, and we have to look at it from the lens of, is this good for the AAPI community, but also, is this important for us to act as an ally to our colleagues?
Marty?
Sure. Thanks, Kristen. And excellent answer, Kristen. I'm sure everybody's seen the Jackie Chan remake of Karate Kid, which I don't know why they call it Karate Kid, because he's actually teaching Kung Fu to Will Smith's son, right? So it should be Kung Fu Kid, but whatever. One of my favorite lines from that movie is when Jackie Chan says to his protege there, he goes, "Your focus needs more focus," right? Focus is the art of figuring out what to ignore. And to answer the question about should NAPABA be taking a position on every hot topic, the answer is no. But to Kristen's point, it's really a matter of figuring out which are the hot topics that impact our mission, which ones we can add the value to, and how do we be an ally for our allies, right? How do we be supportive for our allies? And that's the filter that the board has to look through when we address which issues get the focus of time from staff and the board. And unfortunately, actually, frankly, I think we do a decent job at that. There are many, many great organizations which are better suited to do things on other levels, whether that's the social impact work or like Christine's organization, getting out the vote, et cetera. And we partner with those organizations and we make our members aware of what those organizations are doing so that if they as individuals also want to support the efforts of those organizations, they can do so for the betterment of our community. As an organization, NAPABA has to have a really good focus on where we as lawyers can add the most value. And I think we do a good job at that, but feedback is a gift. And if there are members out there or affiliates that say, hey, we really need to take a stand on this, and why isn't the board making a bigger stink out of this, or why aren't we flexing our network with our elected officials who are API because of this issue? We need to know, and we can respond and say, here's why we haven't taken a position, or, you're right. We didn't see that angle of it and we need to consider that. And I think we as a board do a good job at making sure that we do receive feedback as a gift.
Thank you, Marty. And then Judy to wrap it up.
Thank you, Christine. And I love the responses from Kristen and Marty, so thank you both. I think that we can't respond to everything because then everything, it becomes like no priorities, right? So we obviously can't do that. But the test and the challenge is in the discernment of what is important and when we should speak, and if we speak, what do we say? I do think that there is a price to being silent. And I do believe that NAPABA, to be relevant, to be active, to activate, and to be inspiring to our affiliates and to the members, you do have to speak on the importance that are the issues that are important. And they should be the issues that we foresee and that we can look at ahead of time and can see it's a long history of dedication to immigrants, to access, to excellence for APAs in the law. But there are many issues that have not been advanced or amplified, and possibly because they're difficult and possibly because they are controversial. Yes, to all that. But I would love to see NAPABA try to enact a process, have a forum, people can disagree, but also to have an outlet for us to develop that. And in terms of whatever the issues are, the issues of the day, whether it's Me Too and Time's Up and supporting women and gender equality, to things like the migration crisis. There are some Asians in that group too, and we're not the ones that are speaking about it primarily. And then about the past, sort of resolving and repairing the past in terms of racism and how this country and Canada too has treated Native Americans. Like, these are all issues that are on the headlines. I don't believe that we have to speak on everything, but I do think that the work we do, whether we speak on it or whether we do work on it, it's important for NAPABA to be at the table and to be vocal.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you to the three of you for your very insightful answers. Right now, we're going to go ahead and provide you 1 minute each for closing remarks, and we'll start out with Judy, Marty, and then Kristen.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be in this group, and thank you to NAPABA, Christine, my fellow panelists, all the NAPABA staff for doing this. It's always great to be able to speak on these issues, and I always learn a lot from it too. Because the election is going to be uncontested, then there's no real pitch for this, but I look forward to serving, and my door is always open. I also do think that NAPABA is made better by all of the contributions and questions and debating that all of you provide.
Thank you, Judy. And Marty?
Yes, thank you again to all the staff, and thank you, Christine, and to my fellow candidates who've been up here sharing some wisdom. I learn every time that I hear you all speak. Thank you to the folks who attended. Your questions, I know we didn't get to answer all of them, but as Judy mentioned, our doors are open, so please feel free to ping, email. Frankly, the NAPABA website has this chat feature. I recently noticed that someone asked me a question on there like 2 months ago, and I'm like, sorry, I don't check that. Out of all the different modes of communication, that was the slowest one. Please, text, call, send me on LinkedIn, whatever it is. Send an email to the NAPABA staff. Hey, Marty should answer this question, whatever. But we as a board are honored to serve. And I, as an individual, am honored to serve with y'all, these fine leaders for this great organization. So thank you, everybody.
And
Thank you,
recognizing that, I'm the one thing keeping you from, dinner or family time, I'll be brief. I do want to echo the thanks to Christine and to our NAPABA staff. Both Marty and Judy are amazing people and amazing leaders, and it will be a pleasure to serve alongside you and the rest of the NAPABA board. I do want to say, reach out to us, reach out to NAPABA staff. We are here to serve you, and we want to hear from you. So don't be shy. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, Marty, and Judy. And thank you everyone here for participating in the NAPABA's Candidates Forum. If you are an eligible member in good standing, you should have received your ballot. So please be sure to cast your ballot by the deadline of September 14th. Thank you and good evening.